Hi there, my name's Nicholas, one of the members of Play on Tabletop. You know, a lot goes into our videos, from planning and scripting to graphics and even editing, not to mention the actual game itself. We easily put 80 man-hours or more into each video. And walking through the whole process is something we'd love to cover in a future video. But I want to talk about the cinematics. The Army cinematics is probably one of my favorite parts of how we make our battle report videos. And I feel it's an important part. These cinematics or army shots are a fun way to show off the minis and get people excited about the mission, the narrative, and communicate the theme of the battle. You know, we don't just slap down some minis, press record, and call it a day. These often take most of a day of work and some significant resources and planning. I feel like properly done army shots can make a world of difference to battle reports. And today, I'm gonna show you how we do ours. But you know, it wouldn't be a Play on Tabletop video without a rockin' intro. Before we go too much further, I just wanted to give a shout out to our patrons and our Discord. We couldn't be doing this without your support. Interacting and building that community has honestly been one of the unexpected highlights of this whole journey. If you'd like to support us and be part of what we're doing, man, it goes a long way to keeping us supplied in paint, miniatures, and coffee. If you're not able to, you know, that's okay too. We appreciate your support by even watching this video. Right now, we're actually having a Patreon campaign to try to get to 1,000 patrons. And you know, we're so close. The guys have promised me that if we can get to 1,000 patrons, we are gonna be purchasing one of the biggest models that Games Workshop produces, the Tau Manta. I don't think they know what they've gotten into. It's a massive Titanic flyer. And we want to produce a series of build videos, putting it together, as well as then use it in as many things as we can. I personally want to see a kill team video played entirely on top of a Manta. Seriously, it's that big that could happen. I know it has the capability of producing some amazing cinematics as well. Which leads us back to our topic, taking awesome videos of tiny miniatures. So as I mentioned earlier, doing the Army cinematics is probably one of my favorite parts of how we make our battle report videos. My personal background is in film and video editing, and I'm one of our primary shooters. A lot of the skills I've developed over my career have enabled me to jump into doing battle reports and tabletop videos fairly, well, easily, as a lot of the techniques and principles I've learned from my career are the same. That said, miniature photography and video has some significant differences from regular photography, and we've had to learn a lot. At PlayOn, we've been doing this for about 3 years now, and we have learned a lot. There's a lot to learn still even. You know, for instance, go back and look at some of our earlier videos. And while I still feel like they have some quality and they're decent videos, I end up cringing quite a bit because of where we've come from and how much better we've improved upon some things. Sometimes I look back and wonder why we did it a certain way. Ugh. So how we do our cinematics is one thing I believe has enabled us to stand out, as it allows us to get right into the action and feel like the battles are real. Some feel like it's not worth our time. Well, I disagree. It plays a vital role in connecting what we imagine these battles to be and the reality that we are playing with static representations of imaginary soldiers. Let's get to it. So setting up the terrain that you want to use is going to be one of your first steps. It's an important step because it sets the tone for what you're doing. Right here, I'm setting up to do the cinematics for one of our latest games, Drukhari versus the Admech. JT takes on Takwana. It was an epic game, very narrative, and a ton of fun. We also had a number of backdrops painted by our own Tycho. He produced some amazing backdrops. Look at this green one here. Lighting is the most important step of making your miniatures look awesome. Together, we're gonna explore what's known as a 3-point lighting setup. It's a classic lighting setup in documentary or filmmaking. Let's turn off all the house lights. Now that does look really cool. The fire effect LED lights are providing a backlight and illuminating the shape of the model. However, if we're trying to decipher what model that is, it's really hard to tell. And we can't tell what kind of setting they're in or what they're facing. So we're gonna have to do a lot more work to make it clear, legible, and useful for telling a story. The first step we're gonna do is some backlighting. We've got some LED strips here. We've colored them purple to go with the theme of the Drukhari, and we've lit them back up against the backdrop. Two of them provide an even source of lighting and will give us some backlighting. Backlighting allows us to see the texture of, for instance, the buildings on the right there, or the texture of the models themselves if there is enough backlighting. Without backlighting, often, even if you have enough lights in front of the model, they'll start blending into the background and they'll be hard to pick out from a busy background or other miniatures. I'm using uplighting in this case, shooting the light up from above. This allows the light to fade to darkness in the background, so as you get higher in the backdrop, it gets darker and it fades into the background to be unnoticeable. I'm also trying to emulate perhaps there's a fire going on or an energy source of some sort that is illuminating that. All of your lighting sources should feel motivated, like there's a reason for why they are there. If I was doing a bright sunny day, I might consider putting the light from above to emulate the sun shining down onto our sunny day. The other two lights of what is our 3-point lighting system is our key light and our fill light. The key light is typically our brighter main source of lighting that is illuminating the subject. The fill light comes in and fills in the shadow. Right here, I'm filling in the shadow with this secondary light, and as you can see, we're starting to get some definition and we can see clearly what the model is. Experiment with the intensity of your lighting. A brighter key light and a darker fill light will produce a more dramatic look, as you can see here. Now let's go ahead and turn off both these lights. As you can see, there's still one light showing. I've set up one more light, another backlight, this time pointing at the miniature instead of the background. I've got it hanging on a pole above the miniature, pointing down and slightly towards the camera. This provides this little rim of light around the model that really defines what the model is and separates it from the background. Even though in the background we have some light explosions and stuff like that, it's very easy to tell where the model ends and the background begins. Turn back on that key light. This time we're gonna go from the left and a bright key light. Turning on the other light, the fill light again, filling in the shadows. That is the basics of a 3-point lighting setup. There is, of course, tons more that goes into lighting, but at least this gives you the basics. One note on this lighting setup, if you notice, I'm actually pointing the light to the side rather than straight back towards the background. This is because if I did so, all that shadow in the background and even the background itself would be all lit up and it wouldn't look good. Now, let's put some miniatures down. One tip with photographing or videotaping miniatures, be careful of having them too spread out horizontally or deep into the shot. You will only be able to get a small amount actually in focus. We've found that we've had to adjust our f-stop, the aperture of the lens, to a very high number. Typically when you're doing portraits for people, you'd be about at an f4 or an f5 to give yourself a beautiful background that is slightly out of focus with your subject in focus. However, if you do that with miniatures, you're gonna have the tip of the gun or the nose in focus, but nothing else. So you often have to go for a much deeper focus, going to 8 or even an f-stop of 11 to get more of the miniatures in focus. This is especially important when using telephoto or long lenses. You'll find yourself constantly getting your miniatures out of focus. Small tip, sometimes you want to place a model in a certain place and it doesn't work. Get some sticky tack, blue tack, wall tack, whatever it's called in your neck of the woods, put a little bit on the base, and voila! Sometimes you may have trouble with light spilling onto the backdrop, for instance. Let's turn off that fill light. We still want to use the light, so what we're going to use is something to block the light from hitting the background while not blocking the miniatures. Hey, look, I found a use for the 8th edition Tau Codex. As you can see, it looks quite a bit better. So there are some basic tips on how to get lighting to work with you, not against you, hopefully helping you to get awesome shots of your miniatures. There's a lot more that can be added, for instance, smoke, other kind of lighting effects. We've taken an LED bar, colored it purple, pointed it towards the camera, and put it behind some miniatures to give a really cool backlit lens flare effect. All in all, miniature photography can be a ton of fun, takes a lot of work, a lot of practice. But if you're willing to put in the time and effort, it can be amazing. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys create. And if there's something you want to see, some sort of cool cinematic effect or style or theme, let us know. We're always looking to see what we should try next. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learned something. And as always, play on.